My mother placed the pen beside my plate like it was a knife, and my father watched my hand as if his entire life depended on how fast I picked it up. The folder was cream-colored, thick, and too carefully positioned to be accidental. It sat between a plate of golden waffles and a glass of orange juice, right where a birthday card should have been. My name was printed across the first page. Clara Whitmore. Below it, in cold black letters, were the words Whitmore Family Legacy Limited Liability Company. 8 hours earlier, at 12:01 in the morning, I had already signed the real document. Not in this kitchen. Not under their eyes. Not with their lawyer breathing down my neck. I had signed through a secure legal portal while the rest of the house slept under the soft glow of party lights. My grandmother Rosalind's vineyard had been locked inside an irrevocable trust before the sun ever touched the Napa Hills. They did not know that. To them, I was still the quiet daughter. The soft one. The girl in the oversized gray hoodie who worked early shifts at a bakery and never raised her voice. The girl who listened more than she spoke. The girl they believed could be pushed with a smile, bent with guilt, and bought with a pretty dress. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," my mother said. Elaine Whitmore looked perfect, the way she always did when she was lying. Her silver blonde hair curved neatly around her face. Her blouse was crisp. Her smile was warm enough to fool strangers and cold enough to chill blood if you knew where to look. She set the waffles in front of me and brushed a hand over my shoulder. My father sat across the kitchen island, one hand wrapped around a coffee mug, the other tapping against the marble counter. Malcolm Whitmore had built a career on creating beautiful weddings for wealthy people. White tents. Crystal glasses. Imported roses. Sunset vows between families who still had money left to promise each other forever. But his own life was coming apart behind the curtains. His event company was drowning. Vendors were calling. Banks were circling. Clients were demanding refunds he could not pay. And somewhere in his desperate mind, my grandmother's vineyard had stopped being my inheritance and had become his escape route. My younger sister Sophie sat near the window, scrolling through her phone, half listening and half annoyed. She was 17, polished, adored, and still innocent enough to believe credit cards were a form of weather. Sometimes they worked. Sometimes they did not. Somebody else always fixed the storm. "Now that you are 19, my mother continued, her voice light and careful, "your father and I thought it was time to simplify a few family matters." My father leaned forward. His smile appeared late, like an actor remembering his cue. "It is just restructuring, Clara. Nothing heavy. Your grandmother left the vineyard in a complicated position. Taxes, insurance, water rights. You should be focused on school, not buried under agricultural paperwork." I looked down at the folder. Whitmore Ridge Vineyard. The name alone made my throat tighten. I could smell the summer dust between the rows of old vines. I could hear Grandma Rosalind's cane tapping against the stone floor of the wine cellar. I could see her sharp blue eyes watching me over a ledger as she said, "People who rush you to sign are never protecting you, Clara. They are protecting themselves." My mother slid the pen closer. "Just a few signatures before breakfast gets cold." For one heartbeat, nobody moved. Then I opened the folder. The paper whispered against the counter. My father's tapping stopped. My mother's smile stiffened. Even Sophie looked up from her phone. I read slowly. Not because I needed to understand it. I already did. I read slowly because I wanted them to feel each second crawl across their skin. There it was. Elaine Whitmore, managing member. Full authority to transfer, mortgage, liquidate, or sell vineyard assets. No second signature required. No education fund. No protection clause. No mention of Grandma Rosalind's wishes. Just a polished trap dressed in legal language. My mother watched me the way a cat watches a bird that has stopped singing. "Sweetheart," she said, too quickly, "it is standard wording. Lawyers make everything sound frightening." My father exhaled through his nose. "Do not overthink it. I touched the bottom of the page, where a name had been printed in small neat letters. Grant Holloway, attorney at law. The room seemed to tilt, but not because I was afraid. Because I finally saw the whole machine. The fake breakfast. The birthday smile. The folder. The pen. The lawyer my father thought I had never heard of. I lifted my eyes to my mother. Why does this document give you the power to sell Grandma Rosalind's vineyard without asking me? The kitchen went silent. My mother blinked once. My father's hand tightened around his coffee mug. Sophie whispered, "What is going on?" No one answered her. I sat there in my old hoodie, with cold waffles in front of me and millions of dollars they would never touch resting behind a legal wall they did not even know existed. And for the first time in my life, I understood the power of being underestimated. 2 years before that breakfast, before the folder, before the pen, before my parents decided my inheritance was easier to steal than their dignity was to repair, Grandma Rosalind handed me a sealed envelope in the coldest room of her vineyard. Whitmore Ridge sat on a long golden slope in Sonoma County, where the hills rolled like sleeping animals and the vines stretched in perfect rows toward the afternoon sun. The air smelled of dry grass, warm earth, and grapes splitting under their own sweetness. In the mornings, fog drifted low over the fields like a white blanket. By noon, the sun burned it away, leaving everything sharp, bright, and honest. I was 17 that summer. My parents told everyone they were sending me to stay with Grandma Rosalind so I could learn family history. That sounded noble at dinner parties. The truth was simpler. They wanted me out of the house while they hosted donors, clients, and wealthy couples who hired my father's company to turn their weddings into theatrical displays of money. Sophie was sent to a private leadership retreat with girls who wore matching tennis skirts and spoke in brand names. I was sent to the vineyard because I did not photograph well in their version of the family. Grandma knew at the moment I stepped out of the car with my canvas duffel bag. She stood on the porch in linen trousers, a straw hat, and sunglasses too large for her narrow face. Her hair was white, pinned low at her neck. She did not hug me right away. She studied me, as if measuring how much silence I had swallowed. "Your mother looks at people like furniture," she said. "Your father looks at people like invoices. Come inside." That was Grandma Rosalind. No sugar. No soft lies. No pretending a rotten board was still strong if everyone agreed not to step on it. She did not let me sleep late. At sunrise, she gave me gloves and sent me down the rows with the field manager. I learned how vines were pruned, how soil cracked when water was mismanaged, how one bad season could punish a careless owner for years. In the afternoons, she brought me into the stone cellar and spread ledgers across an old oak table. "Read," she ordered. At first, the columns blurred together. Maintenance. Insurance. Labor. Distribution. Water rights. Property tax. Storage costs. I thought wealth meant freedom. Grandma taught me wealth was weight. Beautiful weight, if carried with discipline. Deadly weight, if carried by fools. One evening, we sat in the cellar while the heat outside pressed against the stone walls. Dust floated in the amber light from the high window. Grandma's hands trembled slightly as she uncorked a bottle, though she poured only for me to smell, not to drink. "Your parents love the costume of wealth," she said. "But they hate the labor that keeps wealth alive." I looked down at the ledger, pretending not to understand how deeply those words cut. She reached into the pocket of her cardigan and pulled out a thick cream envelope. My name was written across the front in her slanted handwriting. "Hide this," she said. My fingers closed around it. "What is it?" "A door," she replied. "But you only open it when the floor beneath you starts to crack." I wanted to ask more, but something in her face stopped me. Her eyes were not frightened. They were tired. That scared me more. I hid the envelope beneath the torn lining of my duffel bag and did not touch it for almost 2 years. When Grandma Rosalind died, rain fell over the cemetery so hard the umbrellas trembled. My Mother cried beautifully, dabbing at the corners of her eyes without ruining her makeup. Sophie clung to Elaine because she understood grief only as something that made adults inconvenient. My father stood near the casket with his jaw tight and his eyes dry. He did not look like a son burying his mother. He looked like a man waiting for a safe to open. At the reception, while guests drank wine in our living room and murmured about what a remarkable woman Rosalind had been, I saw my father slip into the hallway with a resort broker named Calvin Price. Their voices dropped low, but not low enough. "Whitmore Ridge has the frontage, the view, and the water access," my father said. "A luxury retreat would pay a fortune if the title clears fast." "She was buried this morning," Calvin muttered. "I am aware," my father snapped. "I am also aware that timing matters." That was the moment the floor cracked. That night, I locked my bedroom door, pulled the duffel bag from the back of my closet, and tore open the hidden lining with shaking hands. The envelope was still there. Inside was a business card. Marcus Bell, estate attorney, San Francisco. Behind it was a note from Grandma. "Malcolm is drowning. He will not call it greed. He will call it family. Do not believe him. When they come for the vineyard, call Marcus. Protect the roots." I sat on the floor until my legs went numb. Downstairs, my parents were still accepting condolences beside trays of untouched food. Upstairs, I was holding proof that the only person who had truly protected me had done it from beyond the grave. I did not cry. I picked up my phone and called the number. The call to Marcus Bell lasted 14 minutes, but it divided my life into two parts. Before that call, I was a daughter hoping the worst thoughts in her head were unfair. After that call, I became a witness. Marcus did not comfort me with soft words. He did not tell me my father would never do such a thing. He listened while I read Grandma Rosalind's note in a voice so thin it barely sounded like mine. Then he asked 3 questions. "Has your father mentioned selling the vineyard?" "Yes." "Has anyone pressured you to sign anything?" "Not yet." "Then they are still building the trap," he said. "Your job is to let them think you cannot see it." That was how my education in silence truly began. I went back to living in my parents' house as if nothing had changed. I worked morning shifts at the bakery, came home smelling of butter, yeast, and burned sugar, and sat at the dinner table while my family performed normal life around me. My mother discussed flower arrangements for charity luncheons. Sophie complained about her private school ski trip. My father talked loudly about new clients who did not exist. But once you know a house is cracking, you hear every sound differently. The mail basket by the front door became a confession booth. I saw envelopes stamped "Final Notice" tucked beneath glossy catalogs. I saw my mother slide a credit card statement under a stack of magazines when Sophie walked into the room. I heard my father take calls in the garage late at night, his voice dropping into that hard, clipped tone he used when charm had failed him. "No, I understand the payment is overdue," he hissed one night. Then silence. Then, lower, uglier. "I just need time." Time. That was what desperate people always begged for when they had already wasted trust, money, and mercy. 60 days before my birthday, the atmosphere in the house changed so sharply it felt rehearsed. My mother started cooking breakfast. Real breakfast. Eggs, toast, sliced fruit arranged like a hotel buffet. She had not done that since I was small enough to believe she enjoyed feeding us. "Clara, sweetheart," she said one morning, setting a plate in front of me, "you have been working so hard. Your father and I are proud of you." My father looked up from his tablet and smiled. Proud. The word landed on the table like a coin from a stranger. Sophie glanced at me, suspicious for half a second, then returned to her phone. She was used to being the center of warmth. Seeing my parents aim it at me made her uneasy. A week later, my mother came into my room carrying a garment bag from an expensive boutique. Inside was a pale green silk dress. It shimmered under the light like shallow water. "For your birthday dinner," she said. "You are Becoming a young woman. It is time you looked like one. She held it against my shoulders and looked at us in the mirror. Her eyes shone with fake tenderness. We want you to know how much you mean to this family. I stared at our reflection. She saw a quiet daughter receiving a gift. I saw an invoice wrapped in silk. Thank you, Mom, I whispered. It is beautiful. Her smile relaxed. She thought gratitude was taking root. She thought the hook had entered cleanly. But their mistake was believing performance only belonged to them. I performed too. I nodded when my father sighed about tax burdens. I looked concerned when my mother said family assets should protect family. I stayed soft when they sharpened the word sacrifice and aimed it at my throat. The more obedient I seemed, the less careful they became. One night, after a late bakery shift, I found a stack of legal drafts on the dining room table. No folder. No lock. Just pages under the chandelier, waiting for someone they believed was too simple to read them. I did not touch the stack. I leaned over and read. Whitmore Family Legacy Limited Liability Company. Elaine Whitmore, Managing Member. Authority to sell, mortgage, or transfer Vineyard assets. Then the distribution page. $4 million to clear Malcolm Whitmore events and hospitality debt. $1 million reserved for Elaine Whitmore discretionary household stabilization. A dedicated account for Sophie's tuition, travel, and enrichment expenses. And beside my name, one line. Clara Whitmore, educational stipend, $75,000. I stood in that silent room and felt something inside me turn to iron. They were planning to sell a vineyard worth millions. A vineyard Grandma had left to me. A vineyard built from soil, sweat, memory, and grief. And they had priced my future at $75,000. Not even freedom money. Quiet money. Go away money. Be grateful money. The next afternoon, Grant Holloway arrived in a black sedan. He wore a navy suit too shiny for daylight and carried a leather briefcase that looked more expensive than honest. My father introduced him as a family planning advisor. Grant shook my hand and smiled. As if I were a slow child. So, Clara, he said, stretching my name, your father tells me you work in a bakery. That must be fun. Fun. I lowered my eyes and gave him the answer he expected. It is simple work. I like simple things. His smile widened. Across the room, my father relaxed. And in that moment, I understood something powerful. They had hired a wolf. But they had described me to him as a lamb. None of them realized the lamb had already memorized the map of the forest. The final week before my birthday felt like living inside a locked room while someone outside sharpened a key. My parents became unbearable in their kindness. My mother touched my hair whenever she passed me, as if affection could erase the sound of legal paper sliding across a desk. My father began calling me kiddo again, a word he had not used since I was small enough to believe him. Every smile in that house had a hook hidden behind it. The real break came 3 nights before my birthday. I had come home from the bakery with flour under my nails and the smell of cinnamon caught in my hair. The house was quiet, except for my father's voice behind the closed door of his study. He was not using his polished client voice. He was angry. Frightened. Thin. I stopped in the hallway. The resort group will not wait, Malcolm snapped. They want a clean title by the morning after her birthday. Grant Holloway's voice came through the speakerphone, smooth as oil poured over glass. Then we do not wait for morning. My skin went cold. She is still underage before midnight, my father said. You told me that would be a problem. It is only a problem if the date says the truth, Grant replied. There was a silence so heavy I could hear the blood moving in my ears. I have a notary, Grant continued. He stamps what I tell him to stamp. Clara signs during the party. We date the execution after midnight. The filing goes through before anyone has time to ask questions. My father did not gasp. He did not refuse. He did not say, "That is my daughter." He said, "Do it." 2 words. That was all it took to burn the last soft thread between us. I walked upstairs without making a sound. In my bedroom, I locked the door and sent one message to Marcus Bell. "They are bringing a fake notary. They want me to sign before midnight and backdate it." His reply came almost instantly. "Let them try. The trust locks at 12:01. Stay calm. Buy time. Buy time." That became my whole mission. On the evening of my birthday party, our rented Napa house looked like a painting made for people with empty hearts. White lights hung over the patio. Long tables glittered with silverware. Glass bowls overflowed with cream roses. A string quartet played near the pool while guests lifted champagne and told my mother how radiant she looked. I wore the pale green silk dress. It felt like a leash. My mother kissed my cheek in front of 2 women from her charity board. Her lips were cold. "Tonight is for you," she whispered. "No," I thought. "Tonight is for your escape." Across the patio, my father kept checking his phone. Sweat darkened the collar of his shirt. Sophie stood near the dessert table, pale and furious, whispering harshly to my mother because her ski trip payment had been declined again. "It is a bank issue," Elaine hissed through her smile. "Do not embarrass me tonight." That was the first crack guests could see. The second crack arrived in a black sedan. Grant Holloway entered with his leather briefcase, followed by a nervous man in a wrinkled jacket who kept one hand clamped around a small canvas bag. He did not look like a guest. He looked like a mistake. My father found me 10 minutes later. "Clara," he said, too brightly, "come to the library for a second. Just a quick formality." My mother took my arm. Her grip was gentle enough for strangers, tight enough for me. Inside the library, the music faded. The air smelled of leather, old books, and fear. Grant placed the papers on the desk. The nervous notary stood in the corner, staring at the floor. "Simple," Grant said. "Sign here, here, and here." I picked up the pen. The date at the top was tomorrow's date. They had not even bothered to hide it. They truly believed I would never look. I needed minutes. Not courage. Not drama. Just minutes. So I reached for the glass of sparkling water on the edge of the desk and knocked it hard with my elbow. Water exploded across the papers, the desk, and my silk dress. I gasped sharply. "Oh my goodness, I am so sorry." My mother shrieked as if I had spilled blood. "The dress. Clara, that silk will stain." My father's face twisted. "Just sign first." "No," Elaine snapped, already pulling me toward the door. "She has to blot it now." "Do not rub it, Clara. Go upstairs. Hurry." I ran. The moment my bedroom door shut behind me, I locked it. The clock on my nightstand read 11:46 at night. My laptop was already open. Marcus Bell appeared on the screen from his office in San Francisco, calm, stern, waiting. Beside him sat a certified digital notary. I held up my identification with steady hands. Downstairs, my father knocked on the door once, hard. "Clara, hurry up. The zipper is stuck," I called back. The clock turned. 11:59. Midnight. 12:01. Marcus leaned forward. "Now, Clara." I typed my full legal name. Clara Rose Whitmore. I clicked submit. A green confirmation seal appeared on the screen. The Vineyard transferred into the Rosalind Agricultural Trust. Irrevocable. Protected. Untouchable. Marcus smiled faintly. "Happy birthday, Clara. The gate is closed." I shut the laptop and stood in the dark, breathing for the first time all night. Downstairs, they were waiting for a frightened girl to return in a wet silk dress and hand them a Vineyard. That girl no longer existed. The morning after I locked the Vineyard away, my mother tried to serve waffles as if nothing had happened. The cream folder sat beside my plate again. The pen rested on top of it. My father looked freshly shaved, but his eyes were red around the edges. My mother smiled so hard her face seemed brittle enough to crack. Sophie sat by the window, silent for once, her phone face down on the table. "Now that you are officially 19, Elaine said, we should finish what we started." I opened the folder. I read the date. I read Grant Holloway's name. Then I placed my phone on top of the papers and pressed speaker. Marcus Bell's voice filled the kitchen. "Good morning, Malcolm." "Good morning, Elaine." As of 12:01 this morning, Whitmore Ridge Vineyard has been transferred into the Rosalind Agricultural Trust. Clara no longer has legal authority to sell, transfer, or mortgage the vineyard. Any attempt to file the documents in front of her will be treated as evidence of fraud. My father stood so quickly his chair scraped across the floor. "You had no right," he shouted. "She is my daughter." "She is an adult," Marcus replied. "And your daughter is not your bailout." My mother turned toward me. Her eyes were wet, but not with sorrow. With rage. "You planned this," she whispered. "You sat in this house and lied to us." I stood slowly. My legs felt steady. Stronger than they had ever felt. "No, Mom. I was just quiet." "You assumed quiet meant stupid." Those words broke something in her face. My father moved closer, his voice dropping into a threat. "If you walk out with that vineyard, you have no family. No home. No college help. Nothing." I looked at him, really looked at him. The expensive shirt. The trembling hands. The panic sweating through his skin. He was not a father protecting his family. He was a drowning man reaching for my ankle. "The trust covers my tuition," I said. "Grandma made sure of it." I went upstairs and took the 2 canvas bags I had packed the night before. Clothes. Documents. Laptop. Grandma's letter. Nothing else mattered. Sophie waited near the front door. Her cheeks were streaked with tears. For the first time, the golden girl looked like a child standing in a burning house. "Clara, do not leave," she said. I set one bag down and touched her shoulder. "I am not leaving you. I am saving myself. When you are ready to see the truth, call me." Then I walked out. The sun hit my face like a door opening. I did not look back. The collapse came fast. Without the vineyard, my father's event company folded within weeks. Vendors sued. The bank froze accounts. The luxury car was repossessed in front of the neighbors. My mother disappeared from charity boards she had once ruled like a queen. Invitations stopped. Phone calls went unanswered. Grant Holloway's office closed after Marcus filed a complaint about the fake notary and the backdated papers. I did not celebrate. I did not post anything online. I simply moved into a small apartment in San Francisco, where the kitchen counters were chipped and the heater made a clicking sound at night. It was not glamorous. It was peaceful. For the first time, silence did not feel like danger. It felt like air. 6 months later, Sophie called. "Mom and Dad are separating," she said. "I do not know where to go." I let her visit, but I gave her rules. No address to our parents. No asking for money. No drama. She came with one duffel bag and a face stripped of old arrogance. During that visit, she heard both of our parents call her, not to ask if she was safe, but to demand loyalty. When the second call ended, she stared at my tiny kitchen and whispered, "I am sorry." I did not understand. That was the beginning of us becoming sisters for real. A year later, Marcus called me to his office. He had found Grandma Rosalind's final paper. It was a historic agricultural preservation covenant. She had signed it before she died. Whitmore Ridge could never be bulldozed, rezoned, or turned into a resort. The vines, the cellar, the soil, the old stone walls, all protected forever. Marcus explained what that meant. If my parents had sold the vineyard to the resort group, they would have taken millions for land that could never legally become what they promised. The lawsuit would have exposed the fake date, the dirty notary, the hidden scheme. They might have faced prison. I sat there, stunned. Grandma had not only saved me from them. She had saved them from themselves. "Will you tell them?" Marcus asked. I looked out at the city, bright and loud beneath the window. "No," I said. "Let them believe what they want. I am free. That is enough." That evening, I drove to Whitmore Ridge. The vines moved softly in the wind, their leaves flashing silver under the setting sun. I touched the old cellar door and felt Grandma's strength in the wood, the stone, the silence. She had left me more than land. She had left me a spine. If this story reminded you of a time you had to walk away to save yourself, write the word freedom in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to Still Waters. Payback, and remember this. You are not dramatic for noticing the truth. Sometimes your silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is the sound of your escape plan becoming strong enough to carry you home.